When I was young and I had that dream of going off to college, I only knew of 3 colleges. I knew of UCI, because it's right around the corner. I knew of Santa College down the street, and Harvard University, because everyone talks about Harvard. So, I had the dream that I was going to Harvard just because I didn't know of any other institution. So it was always the financial circumstances. When I would look at, web pages, or I would see information in pamphlets and it said how much it cost to go to school for a year at Harvard, it was like, that's my mom's salary, and that's my parents' salary times 2 or 3 times. We're not going to be able to afford it. So it was, there was always that difficulty in the back of my mind, where it was like, if I'm not going to have the financial means of going off to school, then what's the point of me trying? What's the point of me wanting, to push on if after high school it all kind of just comes to a close? Kind of kept pushing and said someone along the way is going to kind of figure out that I want to do this, and there'll be that hand to help pull me up. Over the public announcement system that the school had every morning in seminar class, they made an announcement for something called the Simon Family Foundation Scholarship, and it was a $36,000 scholarship. So that's when, it lit the fire full throttle down under, and it was just like, okay, I can do this. $36,000, that's a whole year of the UC system, and that was the stepping stone to saying, hey, there's other opportunities out there. The dream kind of started for me when I walked into my kindergarten class. I remember that all the other kids were kind of latching onto their mom's legs or kind of holding on to something like, don't go, don't leave me. And I remember I walked up to my mom and I was like, okay, when are you leaving? Like, I'm here. Just leave me alone, let me do my thing. When you walked to the kindergarten class, there was these colorful rugs, and you sat down, and on top of the door, it said 2016. And then right next to it, it's 2012. And I looked at those numbers and I'm like, 2012, we're barely in 1999. What does that mean? And I asked Miss Cannell, I remember I asked her, I go, Miss Cannell, it was the first day of class, I was the first kid to raise my hand. I'm like, what does that mean? And she goes, oh, boys and girls, this is when you'll graduate from your journey through school. She goes, and then this is when you'll graduate from college. I picked up this book that my kindergarten teacher had, and I started going through it, and I couldn't really understand what was going on. I didn't really know what it was. There was words and things that I didn't know of, and politics. At 5 years old, what do you know about it? But I got into it, and what motivated me was that in the back of my mind, I was like, these are the people who are making the decisions. These are the people who can make a difference in my life and easing other individuals' lives and creating programs or help, giving them a hand up to become better individuals and have a better future. And that's when it sparked. And every other kid, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a police officer. And in my head, I'm like, someday I'm going to live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And whether people supported me or thought I was crazy or, oh, it's going to pass by, that's been my dream ever since. And politics is my passion. Where my grandparents lived on the other side, the guy who lived across the street was a drug dealer. The guy next door to the drug dealer, I think he ran like a prostitution ring or something like that. But you would hear gunshots off in the distance near the area, or you would hear that so-and-so got beat up, or you knew where the local drug dealers lived, you know who did drugs, you knew where the gangbangers hang out, what areas not to step into, what blocks were, controlled by who. So when I was in second grade, I think, sometime, unfortunately, things got a little rough and difficult, and so we kind of were forced to move into whatever place we could find, and we moved into an attic, and it was difficult, So I would see my mom and my dad working hard to try to make ends meet, and we still couldn't make it. Waking up in the morning and being like, well, is there going to be food in the fridge today? Or what we did sometimes was looking in someone else's fridge, and my dad working and then my mom having to stay home. It's like I remember seeing her count pennies, and then we went to the Coinstar, and I remember she took us to this place to buy like the cheapest meal she could find. So it was difficult.
It was hard because sometimes we wouldn't have enough money to eat. And there was a point where I didn't have the money to feed the kids, and I had to count pennies in order to buy them a meal. I didn't care if I didn't eat, as long as the boys were fed.
There was one window that they had put, and it was in the side towards, it was just one window, and that was the only means that we had of light coming in from outside and looking outside. Honestly, I'm really thankful for my parents because they made a lot of sacrifices. When we moved here, it wasn't easy. Kind of just dragged on, and like my mom said, I know that I don't really express it or tell them or show it, but I know the sacrifices they made to try to give us a better future. And I'm really thankful that we were able to move into a better community, and that my mom and my dad worked hard to send us off to a better school. I remember looking up top, and Georgetown's nickname is the Hilltop, and it truly is the Hilltop, because when I looked outside my window, up in the distance you could see Georgetown and you could see Healy, the tower, the Healy clock just kind of there, and it was just overwhelming joy to know that, hey, like, that's my home for the next 4 years, and like, I made it there. I remember stepping into the front gates, and I looked up to the clock, and for a moment it kind of hit me, it's like, I don't belong here. Like, what's a kid from a tough neighborhood and a tough past doing here? You know, politicians and rich kids, and the sons of wealthy individuals from across the world internationally come here. You know, I'm not privileged. What am I doing here? Well, why am I here? I don't belong here. And it took me a while to kind of get adjusted and say, hey, you know, this is now your home. Make the best of it. Run with it. This is just the most amazing thing to go to those, you know, the gate at the White House, and then skateboard down to the Capitol and look at the West Side. Kind of just stare at that balcony until, you know, I kind of collect my thoughts together. And making your way home is just the best thing, because you skateboard from the west side of the Capitol to the Washington Monument, to the Jefferson Monument, to the Lincoln Memorial. And you make your way up. It's just so powerful to see these monuments to these great individuals, and it's just like, you know, someday I can make a difference.